Uyoyou is a lawyer by profession. She's also a mediator with the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse here in Nigeria. And we first came into contact because I've been on a journey of learning in terms of being a mediator. And at some point, our paths crossed. I think we connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And she's one very passionate lady about mediation and generally all things alternative dispute resolution wise.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great, just hearing about you and being more educated from you as well. I know you're really passionate about this. I mean, you started off in the legal space. You are a lawyer.
Yes, I am.
In terms of your higher education.
Yeah.
And you've worked in a number of industries. You've been a litigator in the past as well. I know that you're currently studying for your master's in conflict management.
Yeah.
And, it will be great to have you just kind of fill in the gaps for the audience to tell them who you are. And let's dive into talking about mediation and alternative dispute resolution.
Okay. So, we'll start with the meaning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Alternative dispute resolution basically means alternatives to resolving your dispute outside the court system. Over the years, let's say in the last 16, 17 years, this started up in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well, ADR has been there before then anyway,
Yeah.
in the form of arbitration and all. But I think I would narrow it down to mediation, which is my focus area for the moment. Mediation started some years ago and it's been growing over the years. It's really an interesting space. People get to resolve their conflicts in a short period of time as compared to doing it in the court system. Yeah, so there are a lot of things about it anyway. I'll get to talk more about it as time goes.
Great. And I know that you're involved in an NGO as well.
Yes, I am.
Some peer mediation, working with
Yes.
young people, so we will talk about that. You are a certified mediator,
Yeah.
both accredited here in Nigeria and in the UK.
Yeah,
I think
CEDR.
the CEDR,
CEDR.
which is the UK
Yes,
body
it is.
equivalent, and I know we have one here in Nigeria as well. So that's really interesting. So can you, great, thank you for just generally explaining what alternative dispute resolution is and obviously mediation. So what is mediation, if we're going to get granular about it, for the layman, obviously?
Yes. So mediation is all about getting a third party, a neutral person, to come in and help you resolve your dispute. Okay. The middle person or the neutral person here, who is the mediator, doesn't tell you what to do or how to do it, and that's how it differs from arbitration. Right. In arbitration, you have the arbitrator or the arbitrators. Sometimes there could be three of them. They would you put in your facts and your issues, give them your documents and everything. They'll go through it and they'll come to a decision which is now binding on the parties. But that's different from mediation, because in mediation, what happens is that the third party, who is the mediator here, just encourages both sides to find a middle ground. He doesn't really give you the decision, but he helps you, facilitates the process of getting a resolution to your conflict. The beauty about that is you need to own your conflict. Yeah. Okay, you own the decision, you own the settlement that comes in from your dispute. It's not a scenario where you have a third person telling you something you're not comfortable with. No, it's something you're comfortable with, the other party is comfortable with, and we'll try to say, okay, you cannot always get what you want from mediation, but you understand the fact that what's most important is resolving your conflict. Yeah. So that's what's most important for the parties involved. So whatever it takes to do that, you should do it.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah. And typically, what kind of cases would go for mediation as an opportunity to resolve a dispute?
I would say mediation is not selective. Yes, because we do family cases. It could also boil down to maybe when parties, couples are divorcing or something, yeah, and they need to settle certain issues involved. They'll come for mediation. Family issue, inheritance, industrial issues, even entertainment, everything really. And we're now starting restorative justice here in Lagos.
Which is what?
Restorative justice is basically, it's bringing in a little bit of the criminal thing into the mediation circle. Well, the idea behind it is when certain people commit crimes, especially first-time offenders for light crimes, burglary, stealing, little things of that sort, you really don't need to throw them to the prison or the jail system. Like, really, how many people can you lock up? Sometimes maybe what even the complainant wants is just to be restored to where he was before the incident or something of that sort. So they try to sieve out those, we like to say, mild criminal issues out of the very deep ones, if I may use that word. And then you bring in the parties, you try to find out from them if they are open to resolving it in this manner, you know, and if they are.
So let's talk about the passion and the reason why. And you did say earlier that you, in your sort of earlier days before moving from litigation into the ADR space, you were getting fed up with the way that you saw cases kind of dragging on for years and years before actually reaching any conclusion. But what was that moment for you that really made you decide that you needed to kind of say goodbye to the whole kind of litigation environment and step into alternative dispute resolution? What?
Okay, so I think it happened over time. You know, going to court and one day the court doesn't sit, the other day you take an application and it's there for like a month, 2 months, 3 months. And of course in the firm, you know about other cases that have been there for like 10 years, 5 years. And there are really issues that ought not to linger so long, you know. So it was just building up over time, like, okay, this is not comfortable, this is not right. And when I got a chance to visit the multi-door for the first time, and I saw that the case was resolved the same day it was brought in, I was like, this is possible, right? Then let's do this. This saves us the years, this saves us, you know, the months and everything being spent in litigation. So yeah, that's what really woke up my interest, and I'm like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, and I can really, appreciate what you're saying there, because I mean, I know directly and indirectly of cases that just kind of go on and on and on and on. So how well is the is from your perspective, how well is the litigation system here embracing alternative dispute resolution as an alternative for their clients to take as a way to resolve their matters?
Okay, I'll break that into different parts. Okay. I would say for the system, especially that's the judiciary now, they have really embraced it. They've pushed it this far, and it's amazing the effort and everything being put into it. You know, it's really nice. But the challenges I guess we would have with mediation right now is one, the awareness is not there. People really don't understand, like, how does this process work? How do we start? How do we continue? What's the financial implication, you know? So sometimes when people don't understand or know something, they kind of like just go with the known alternative. Okay? Now, aside that, lawyers on their own part, I think many times they see it as a challenge to their job. You know, it's like, if you're going to take my clients, and because we usually tell the parties when they come for mediation that mediation is about the parties, not about their counsel here. You know, it is the decision of the parties that counts. Sometimes we might ask the lawyers to step out and let the parties, you know, decide for themselves. So it's almost like, oh, you're kind of trying to take our job away from us. So the LMDC has done a lot of programs to try and sensitize lawyers about the fact that, no, we're not taking your job from you. We're actually trying to make it easy for you, because if you have a client who has a case and it's brought in for mediation and we resolve it in like 2-3 months, nothing stops you from taking your full charge for the job. You know, we've just saved you like 2-3 years of going back and forth the court system. So why not? Okay. But they still haven't really embraced it as much as we want. Well, I'm one of them anyway. So we're hoping that in time they will have a more positive attitude towards mediation.
Any stories in your experience that have just made you laugh, you know, on this ADR journey?
Laugh.
Yeah. That have amused you, should I say? I know there's a very serious side to
Yeah,
it.
they're actually very deep
It,
issues, you know. Um, Rather than talk about the part that makes me laugh, I
yeah.
think I'll talk about the one that's a bit frustrating.
Right.
You know, it's what sometimes I refer to as the Nigerian mentality.
Yes, and I think that's the kind of thing I was like referring to in terms of
Okay.
that whole, yeah.
You know, sometimes people come in, they have issues. Yes, we try to talk about these issues. We try to like see, okay, how best can we move forward? And when all has been done, you just see some people will be like, no, I don't want to settle this.
Wow.
Yes. And you're
After
like,
everything.
after everything. And you're like, why? And you hear some response like, I want to just teach him a lesson.
Ah.
I want to prove to him that he can't take me for granted. You know, so if you'd ask me, I think that yes, we complain all the time that our court systems are full of cases, but maybe if we dig deep, we would find out that some of these cases really ought not to be there.
Wow.
You know.
And it's down to the client this
Yes.
time. How
Yes.
interesting is that?
So,
That's really
so when you
interesting.
see that happening, you know, some people might say, "Oh, mediation doesn't work so well." Yeah, we brought the, let's say, 50 cases were brought in for mediation, and maybe only 30 or something were settled. What about the rest and all that stuff? You have to ask yourself, were the parties willing? You know,
Yeah, good
were the
question.
parties willing?
Yeah.
Because mediation
Yeah.
can't work if the parties are not willing
Yeah, that's
to
what I was
settle.
taught as well, yes. That they have to be willing
Yes.
to participate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
when we have scenarios where people come in, first of all, they don't understand what the mediation thing is all about. And then when you explain it to them and you try to make them move past whatever issues they're having, they'll just tell you. And funny enough, it's not, some people might say, oh, maybe it's the high class trying to oppress, you know, those who don't have so much. No, there are instances where you see someone say, oh, he thinks he's doing so well, he's so affluent and everything. Oh, okay, so I'm down the ladder, but I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to make him spend years in the system. It's going to do something to his reputation and all that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like, so, you know, we
Yeah.
can't push you past that point
Yeah.
because when you do that, it's no longer mediating.
Yes.
You know, we are deciding
You're
for
coercing,
you.
actually, yeah,
So,
absolutely, yeah.
so, yeah, those are some of the stumbling blocks
Interesting.
we face.
Yeah.
And, well, I believe that that's where the peer mediation thing comes in.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the NGO stuff. So,
Yes.
yeah,
So I
please do
believe
talk
that
about
if we get to train the young ones from a young age, from the secondary school years into the university, to understand that when you have issues with people, try to separate your emotions from the issues and try to get resolution to your conflicts. You know, you don't have to make so much drama about it. You know, if we get to train them from that young age, when they become adults and they live in a society and all, I think we'll have less violence.
Yeah.
We'll have less issues in courtrooms because people have already grown to resolve their disputes themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one reason why we're passionate about peer mediation, trying to introduce it to secondary schools and
do you know, I am 100% in agreement with what you've said there. Because I do podcasts as well, and there was a particular podcast which was titled I Am Sorry. And some of the research that I found out was that when we teach our children from a younger age to say sorry when they're supposed to not find it difficult to say sorry, what happens is that you know, they learn not to sweat the small issues, you know, and their nature becomes one that is more willing to negotiate, have a conversation, get past the pain or the anger of what they're going through. But when that kind of thinking mentality has not been instilled from a young age, what then evolves are individuals who are more resolute, more stubborn. No, I'm not going to accept, you know, that kind of attitude. So it's very much aligned with what you're saying there. It still speaks to the same principle, so I absolutely agree with that. And what about the Door Youth Empowerment
Empowerment
Initiative?
Initiative,
What's
yes.
that all about?
So that's the peer mediation was actually what started it up. Then in time, we realized when we went into secondary schools, especially the government secondary schools, that some of the challenges.
Let's talk about the stuff that you've been doing in the NGO space. You've been talking about peer mediation.
Yes.
So what about the Door Youth Empowerment Initiative? Could you tell us about that?
Okay, it started from trying to introduce peer mediation to secondary schools and all. And then when we came across schools, spoke with principals and proprietors and all that, we realized that there are a lot of issues in the school system that people are not looking at. A typical day would entail parents waking up early in the morning, hustling up to their jobs, and they come back late at night. Okay, they don't really get to spend time with their children. And what happens? The kids are outside there, and there's a lot of pressure, societal pressure, Instagram, Twitter, what have you, you know. And there's the pressure to, will I say, follow what's trending. And we realize that a lot of children get into stuff they should not because they just follow alongside their peers and everything that's being told to them. And that's how we started that talk about peer pressure. Bullying is also something else. So we talk about, you see, you find out that they say that some of these shooters in secondary schools outside the country, the research showed that a lot of them were bullied before they did what they did. So it's like bullying brings in something in a person that could be dangerous on the long run, you know. So we try to talk to the children that, look, don't bully. And if you see someone bullying, try and talk to them to stop it.
Or report them if that's not
yes,
working.
and going online, the cyberbullying is getting bad. People do bad things to themselves because they are bullied online. You're not looking good enough, you're this, you're that. But as we talk about that, we also try to tell them that you should be proud of who you are. You know, accept yourself for who you are. Like everyone can't come out first position in school, right? So if school is not doing it for you, attend school to get the basic knowledge and everything. Then if you are good at sewing, do it. If you are good at playing football, do it. You know, it's not all about following the trend. What's trending today might not trend in the next 5 years. Who knows? It's what you have a talent for that could be trending at that time. So if you were only smart enough to stick to that and not follow the pressures of your time, you'll be at the top there. So yeah, we encourage children not to follow peer pressure and not to take part in bullying. And then we also try to teach them about the peer mediation thing. And that's basically it for now.
No, great work. Absolute great work. So we're coming to the end now, and there was something that occurred to me actually that I hadn't asked earlier. And now when I tell people that, oh, you know, I actually did a mediation course this year, the next thing they ask me is, are you a lawyer? Because there is this perception that only lawyers get involved in any kind of ADR training. So do you want to demystify that? It's a great opportunity to demystify that, because there is that perception, certainly here.
Well, no, not just lawyers. We actually have people of all professions. I know when I did my training, there was a medical doctor with us, you know, and the beauty of having professionals in different fields doing mediation is the fact that they can handle issues in that relevant field. Okay, we have a lot of ex-bankers in mediation. Now, when cases in the banking industry, banking and finance sector comes in, well, I did just a short time in the bank, so if you're going to ask me to go through certain data, it would be like a big deal. Yes, I can do it, but it will actually come easier for someone who's been in the field, who knows the in and out of that particular profession. So yes, people are encouraged, whatever field you are in, of course you can become an...
So before we go, I'd definitely like it if you could just share with our listeners, for anyone out there who would like to consider using mediation as a way to resolve a dispute, but have no clue as to where they should go to, here in Nigeria, be it Lagos or any other state, what do you advise?
Okay, I would say it's really an easy process and you don't have to sweat it. Just walk into the Lagos State Multi-Door Courthouse. and from the reception, there's someone there who will attend to you. And one point I need to make is that mediation is actually cheap, and you can do it without a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer present there. So for whatever issues you're having, just walk in there, speak with the person at the reception table, and they'll direct you. It's as easy as that.
When you say cheap, I mean let's be clearer about what cheap means.
Okay, cheap means
obviously
it's
cheaper than a lawyer, but I mean what do you mean?
when we say cheap, we say it's definitely not what you're going to pay a lawyer, And I wouldn't say it's cuts across all cases, different cases, have their different billing. But for basic stuff, some people, the fear some people have is that, I don't have so much money, and my case is really not something that involves so much money. I don't want to start a process and then I'm stuck and there are bills to pay. So when I say cheap, it means that if you belong to that category, you really need not worry yourself.
Yeah, okay, all right. I think that's good enough. So apart from Lagos, other parts of Nigeria, where would people go? And I know obviously you can always Google. This is true, but just for the sake of in Nigeria, not everybody kind of checks Google, has access to Google, so just general guidance really, regardless of what state you may be in.
Well, a lot of states in Nigeria have their multi-door courthouses also.
Okay.
And I
so
think...
it's pretty standard now?
Yes, it's getting there. Not all the states, but it's getting there.
Okay.
And even for those that don't have, I believe that the various, justice departments in the states would have something close to that. Now,
and they can signpost you.
how well they function, it's a different case entirely.
Yeah.
But yes, for Lagos, we know we're good.
Okay, good. All right. Hey, Lagos. Well, listen, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. You've enlightened the audience and added on to what I already know. So that's great. And I'm really looking forward to practicing as a mediator in the space of conflict resolution, conflict management, which is really where my interest lies. But just generally, it's been really good. It's been really good for you to have enlightened us all about it, and keep being passionate about it. And also the youth work as well. Please keep that up. That's really good.